That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Commissioner Cooper. Sorry, the internet was lagging there or on this end. Hope everyone's having a great night, feeling all right. It's Friday night. It's week 11. We got a lot of stuff to get to, or week 10. I don't even know what the hell week it is. It's deep. We're deep into weeks, and we got a lot to go over. Let's get it. Did it go?
It's time for TSS Fantasy. Fantasy. It's time for TSS Fantasy. Fantasy. It's time for TSS Fantasy.
You know, the great thing about being a football player is you don't have to take a shower to go to work.
There it is.
That is a great thing indeed. Let's welcome in guys to the studio. Justin Hayes on my end. So I was like, can everyone hear me?
Yeah. This is once again TSS Fantasy. We are sponsored by any other server than Spectrum. Enter the promo code Fuck Spectrum, and you will get a discount of much better internet with any other service provider.
Yes, Spectrum still sucks, believe it or not. Well,
we believe it. We believe it.
Look at all of our latest and greatest rankings on there. A fully updated, except for Justin. I think he's just waiting for maybe after Sunday to put his up. Also, don't forget, go to Fantasy, use the promo code TSS. We're going to double that deposit. The promo, I think, has ended, unfortunately, for the 500. So we're back to the 100. So we'll double that deposit up to $100. Use the promo code TSS there. Jazz Sportsbook as well. Lots of great promos. Check them out as well. Use the promo code TSS. And also, if you're looking for some championship bling for your fantasy champion, look no further than Pro Am Belts. All right, well, we got a fantasy, got an injury expert in the house waiting to get called in. Let's bring in Brian. Let's get the injury report in.
Whoa.
Right,
You could have said injury and fantasy expert. You couldn't have a hold back there.
That's true. I could have just let that. Maybe I was it was a little bit of slip on my end. My bad. You're right though. Got the fantasy expert also in the house. Welcome in.
I'm holding
Brian.
my own in these leagues. I'm holding my own.
You're welcome in, my friend. All right, well, let us know. I know we got some guys that are some guys might be starting, might be coming back, got some guys possibly sitting. Let us know what's going on the injury list, my friend.
Yeah, so I've got a quite the lengthy little list here. I'll try and go through it smoothly and quickly, but yet detailed enough that we know what's going on. So I'm going to skip some of the obvious stuff like Daniel Jones' injury and Cam Akers' injuries. We know they're not coming back this year, unfortunately for their teams. But let's look at the running back position. Now, Dameon Pierce, he's out. He's officially listed as out for this week with an ankle injury. He was not available last weekend, but the team downplayed the injury and made it sound like they were kind of giving him a rest, and it was more of a precautionary thing. And then all of a sudden, boom, he doesn't make it on the practice field this week, and now he's officially out again. So 2 weeks in a row here with some type of ankle injury. More questionable, and I don't know where this kind of is, but Gus Edwards played last week, was effective, and then had some type of toe injury that they were reporting. Missed practice a couple days ago. Not sure if that was a precautionary thing as well, or if it was because of the injury. I expect that we'll see him again. I'm not even sure what his official designation is, but something to keep an eye on there. Could affect his availability, might lead to reduced play. James Conner, he is coming off of IR and has officially been entered into that 21-day window. Now, the Cardinals have also made some additional roster moves where they released one of their running backs, and they are also without Mari DeMarcado with some type of, I think, calf injury or something. So it looks like Connor's going to be available, and mostly because of necessity. But he is coming off IR and should be available to go with some type of knee issue that he was on IR for. So we'll see. But he did return to practice this week. Montgomery. Now, this is a big one I've been getting a lot of questions about. He was a full go in Wednesday's practice coming off this week 9 bye. So it sounds like he's going to be back in action and probably resume the number one role there, despite the fact that Gibbs had some pretty good performances in his absence. Kenneth Walker dealing with some type of chest injury, missed practice on Wednesday, did get some practice time in yesterday and today. He should be available for this weekend. He's played through a lot of injuries and hasn't missed much time, so I don't see that changing this weekend. Keaton Mitchell was listed as questionable with some type of hamstring injury, but he's still carrying that designation into the weekend. But the fact that he got a full practice in is actually a good sign, so he should be available. Just found this one out. I didn't realize Kendre Miller was dealing with some type of ankle injury, and he's been officially listed as out for this weekend. And so that's the running backs. I got a longer list of wide receivers. Josh Downs, officially listed as questionable with some type of knee injury, but he missed practice all week. So I'm not quite sure how you do that and still get listed as questionable. Perhaps it was a precautionary thing, but I didn't see them do any additional imaging studies or nothing. So sounds like it could be 50-50, literally. Robert Woods is dealing with some type of foot issue. He's been dealing with it for a while. He didn't practice on Wednesday. He was seen at practice on Thursday. He had a bye week to rest. I thought he would have been back by now. Not sure what he was able to do today. It sounds like he's going to be, I think, carry a questionable tag. Could be another 50-50 game time decision. We'll have to see. Nico Collins, unfortunately, I have him on my team, and he's been doing very well. He's going to be out. Problem is, it's I think a hamstring injury, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, he's got a calf injury. He was limited in practice on Wednesday and then was a no-go Thursday, Friday. So he might have tried to come back and pull a Joe Burrow and found that it was not going to work and shut it down. So we don't see him this weekend. We'll have to see what happens next week as he comes back. Speaking of back, Jamar Chase was dealing with some type of back injury. It doesn't sound like it's serious. He had an MRI right away, which showed some contusing or bruising. And he's been quoted as saying it's not going to affect his availability this weekend. He will be in there, which is good because T. Higgins is going to be out with a hamstring injury as he didn't practice all week. And actually, I'm sorry, he got injured in practice this week on Wednesday and then missed yesterday and today. And he's officially been listed as out. Curtis Samuel is dealing with some type of toe injury. He missed week 9 after he didn't practice all of last week. He did return for a limited practice this week, but it sounds like he's going to be available. He got a limited practice in yesterday, I think, and then another limited practice today, but they're saying that they expect him to play or at least be available. One guy I didn't get an update on today, maybe you guys have heard, with Jackson Smith-Jigba dealing with some type of hip issue. Did not participate in practice on Wednesday. Could have just been a scheduled rest day. If he was able to get in a practice session yesterday, today, I think he'll be available. Didn't sound like it was anything serious. Zay Jones has officially been listed as out. That's with some type of knee issue that he's been dealing with, and he already had a setback earlier in the year with this knee. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. This could spell trouble going forward for the rest of the season. We'll have to keep a close eye. Justin Jefferson has officially been entered into the 21-day window. He's not probably going to play this weekend. It sounds like he is gearing up to be ready in a few weeks because he wants to be as close to 100% as he can be before he comes back. So we'll have to see how he does ramping up his activity next week in practice. He didn't get a full day of practice in this week yet. And I don't think he was planning on playing regardless, but he is officially in the 21-day window from IR. So that's good news. Treylon Burks was dealing with a concussion, and as of Tuesday, it appeared that he would not be available this weekend. I don't know if that changed over the last couple of days. Maybe you guys have heard, but he had a pretty nasty looking injury last week. and it was diagnosed with concussion. So he's probably, I don't know if he made it out of concussion protocol. Deebo Samuel should be back. He has officially been stated that he's available, and that was kind of the plan all along. I think we talked about this on this show, where it would be wise to wait until after that Week 9 bye, and here we are. Lo and behold, he should be playing. Christian Watson was dealing with some type of back and chest injury, but then lo and behold, apparently they're also evaluating him for concussion, which he cleared protocol earlier this week and returned to a full practice. Didn't sound like this was going to keep him out. He should be available. Drake London has officially been taken off of the injury report this week with this groin injury that caused him to miss last week, so he should be a full go. And then at the tight end position, TJ Hawkinson's been dealing with some rib injury, but was a limited participant in practice this week, but has been quoted as saying that he will be available this weekend to play. And I don't have anybody else at the quarterback position. We know Daniel Jones got injured. We know that Justin Fields didn't play last night. Not much changes there. And Stafford dealing with this thumb. Haven't gotten any updates. This is concerning, though, because this is a thumb that he injured and had a couple of years ago, and he didn't have a reconstructive surgery. He just had a cleanup, quote, unquote. So whether or not that ligament's even more damaged now is hard to say.
Just to give you an update, JSN, it did say he did log in a full participant in practice and actually has been removed from the injury report. And that
There you
one.
go.
So just give you
Cool.
you an update. I was Googling while you were talking there. So
Yeah, that's what we kind of thought it wasn't serious, so that makes sense.
yeah, and a decent matchup at that. So not a bad play for that one. All right, Brian, well, let everyone know where you can follow, subscribe, get all your great stuff. We'll obviously see you on Sunday morning, right here on the Fantasy Sports Corp. But where else can we find you in the interim?
Yep. So you'll find me on Twitter, as you can see below, at Injured List Pod, on the website, theinjuredlist.com, where Andrew LeDuc and I from Fantasy Sports Corps do our Inside the Medical Tent each week, where you get additional dirt on all the injuries, as well as some fantasy roster strategies to use to manage your injuries on your roster. So check that out. Small fee. You can sign up and cancel at any time, worth your money, because you'll get the edge that nobody else has. And I'll be putting out a new podcast episode in a couple of weeks. Did a great interview tonight with a former NFL Pro Bowl kicker, which will be cool to hear. So that one should be ready in a couple of weeks. Just put out one earlier this week with a former collegiate lineman, and I've got a couple more in the wind. So stay tuned for those.
Nice. Make sure you follow, subscribe, get all of Brian's great content. Get you that extra edge you need for this championship run that we're coming down the stretch on. So, Brian, we appreciate you. And again, my friend, we'll see you on Sunday morning or bright and early.
Sounds good.
All right, well,
Yes,
let's
indeed.
get ready. It's time for the breakdown. Freddie's out on the dance floor somewhere doing that same move, I bet. Still got the same move in his
Since the
repertoire.
1980s, he's been doing that move.
Clear the floor, Christine. It's time for me to bring it on down.
Bring it on down, Christine.
All right, let's talk about last night for a minute. I mean, listen, if there was ever a time, I love the game of football. I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be playing fantasy football if I didn't love the sport. But damn, if last night I was like, please, Eddie Pinheiro, please miss this. Don't hit that last minute. I don't want to see any more of this atrocity that was going on last night. Panthers at Bears, 16-13. I mean, this is the stat line. Carolina, Bryce Young, 185. I mean, and 18 yards. And he didn't even give you the rushing yards. I mean, Chuba Hubbard, 23 yards. That's their leading rusher. I mean, it's awful. I don't even want to go over the rest. On the Bears side, what do we got? Yeah, Deonta Foreman. There we go. There's a fantasy relevant person. 80 yards, a touchdown last night, and he had 2 receptions for 12 yards. So somebody had some fantasy relevance in PPR. You could say DJ Moore, 5 receptions, 58 yards. Cole Kmet, 5 receptions, 45 yards. Even Roshan Johnson had 4 receptions last night, even though they amounted to 14 yards. But that's it. Like, I mean, this is all the fantasy stuff we got out here. I mean, the kickers had a great night. Defenses were okay. I mean, what do you think, Justin? Anything you got out of this game?
Yeah. You know what I got out of this game? 2 hours in a movie theater. That's what I got out of this game. I went to go see the Marvels last night. It was an all right movie. I didn't think it was the greatest one that Marvel's come up with in a long time. If you're asking me my analysis of this game, after I watched a little bit of it, and I was kind of on the same boat as you, I was thinking like, man, Eddie Pinheiro, he's not known for kicking 50+ yards. Just end this. Just end it. But yeah, after watching that fourth quarter, I was just kind of like, gosh, golly, talking about some bad offenses. They made these bad defenses actually look good. Yeah, you just kind of look at these types of games and you're like, whoa, at least they're reserved to one night, you know? At least they're just. If we could have Wednesday night football, this would be like the D League of football. So this would be a perfect Wednesday night slot for football.
This is the games you send over to Germany, in my estimation. But regardless, my thing
we're trying to build a good repertoire over there.
I guess my point is like, you know, as you said, there's the get the beer game as you described it. This is kind of where this game should be. Somewhere in the 1 o'clock bracket where it's like we're not really paying attention because there's so many other good games on. Certainly not on a Thursday night. Boy, that was just atrocious. All right, well, let's talk about this Sunday. Some good football coming up, hopefully. Talking about Germany again, we got the Colts at the Patriots. Colts, they're 18th against fantasy QBs, 20th against running backs, 17th against receivers, and 20th versus tight ends. On the Patriots side, they're 16th against QBs, 28th versus running backs, 26th against receivers, and 8th versus tight ends. Give me some guys you like, don't like in this one.
I am really high on Michael Pittman this week. I like that Josh Downs is going to be out. I think Doc said it was Brian said it was 50-50, but I'm looking at it like it's really not 50-50. If you don't practice the entire week, not even in a limited fashion, that usually means you're going to be sitting on the sideline. And I don't blame him. It's a rookie stud receiver that they have, and they just came across in, I think, like 3rd, 4th round. I'd keep him on the bench too, try and keep him healthy for the long run. Quarterbacks, golly, if you're miserable and you really like to be in pain, play Gardner Minshew or Mac Jones, because Jesus. If I had to choose between one of them, I probably would go with Mac Jones just because he has to do a little bit more. But, you know, then again, you look at it and you go, he's doing a little bit more with a little bit less. Like, there's less on the other side. Jonathan Taylor, I know the Patriots have been really good against running backs. I think that Jonathan Taylor is just one of those guys that can crack the code every time he's on the field. He's healthy. He's extremely he's been getting all these touches and he's just getting the uptick going and going and going. Zach Moss is slowly fading out of this offense, and you're really getting to see it. I mean, last week they didn't really use him too much, but when they used him, that 40-yard touchdown, come on, that was a great catch, and he took it straight to the house. Gotta love that. And then on the Patriots side, I guess you say Ramondre, and you kind of hope that Jordan's boy Hunter Henry pulls something through. But am I going with Smith-Schuster? No. Am I going to Mario Douglas? Possibly. I like his talent, but he's still really, in the grand scheme of things, hasn't proven anything. So it's kind of hard. You know, you're kind of just throwing him in the flex and saying, hey, I hope you do something, but no high hopes at this point. That's kind of that.
As we alluded to last couple of weeks, I mean, he's their best offensive threat. You could see that I take that back. Ramondre really is our best offensive threat. So if they can get that running game going, that's obviously going to behoove them. But yeah, he's been, he's got the juice to Mario Douglas anyway, getting onto that. Brad, bro, I'm sorry. I feel so bad. I didn't know you were here. It was like, I didn't want to trash your team or talk so bad about your team if I knew you were here. We were talking about how exciting last night was and how you barely pulled off a victory from the last minute grass from the Panthers. So what a great game last night. Good job by your Bears. Great victory, my friend. I mean, I just felt you're such a nice guy. I just feel bad even talking about your team while you're here. So there we go. That was my good analysis.
Brad's a friend of the show, but he's also a realistic fan. He knows Chicago sucks.
I know. He's too nice. All right, let's go. Browns at Ravens. Boy, oh boy. I mean, it used to be Browns Steelers. This is almost like gives me that Browns Steelers feel right here. Browns, boy, look at this defense. Second against QBs, fifth against running backs, fourth against receivers. They're numero uno against tight ends. Ravens, number one against quarterbacks, 10th against running backs, second against receivers, and fourth against tight ends. Wow, it's going to be a tough one, my friend. What do you think, though? Guys you like and don't like?
Oh, man, it's going to be a really tough game. And then, with Brian coming in and saying both the running backs on the Ravens side are injured. I mean, all I got to say is what else is new? But at the same time, that's been the one thing that's been good against the Browns defense is the other side's ability to run the ball. I mean, who they got left? Justice Hill? Well, I mean, I guess they got Lamar Jackson, but, And Lamar Jackson, to me, he's always been kind of one of those guys that's hit or miss when it comes to the Browns. It's like the Browns kind of have his number just a little bit. He's never, even if he doesn't make mistakes, he never flashes when it comes to the Browns, if you know what I mean. Like the Browns always seem to know how to wrap him up. This has got dogfight written all over it. This is actually one of the games that I'm going to say, if you have a kicker in this game, 100% play him. Because this is the game that I think we've said it a couple times before, those games where it's 19-16, like where you're scoring, where your kicker is kicking field goals all day long. That's the kind of feel that this game gives me. You're always going to try and start your studs. That's the Mark Andrews, the Lamar Jacksons. I even say Deshaun Watson, if you're in a pinch, I would say is an actual stud for you to start. On the other side, for the Browns running backs, I would go Jerome Ford. I think he's going to get a bigger piece of this offense. Kareem Hunt is a spotty flex play if you need it. Amari Cooper, I like him a lot better with Deshaun Watson in there. I'm not trusting in Njoku in this matchup. I think the Ravens are one of, if not the best team against tight ends. And then on the other side, like I said, Mark Andrews, whoever's at running back, I would give it a start because the Ravens are just so prolific with the run game. And then receiving wise, I think it's got to be Zay Flowers. And if you really have to go deep dive on it, Odell Beckham Jr. didn't have a bad game last week.
Oh, that's really deep diving, bro.
Hey, he scored 14 points. We haven't seen that in a while, but he did.
Equivalent of dumpster diving. All right. I mean, seriously. I mean, all right. Well, listen, the Browns D is tough. I wouldn't honestly, like, if I could get away from this ball game, as you indicated, other than a kicker, I'm not really trusting anybody, honestly, like Deshaun Watson, even Ravens number one against fantasy QBs. That offense hasn't been all that great this year. So just a game I would stay away from because these defenses are so good. I'll be interested to see. I haven't looked at weather report, but man, it'd be cool if it was like raining or snowing or something for this one. That would be the kind of feel it gives you. Well, let's stick in the AFC North. The Packers at the Steelers. Packers against fantasy QBs are fifth, against running backs are 22nd, against receivers are seventh, against tight ends they're 11th. Steelers against QBs are 9th, 26th against running backs, 28th against receivers, and third against tight ends. By the way, you mentioned Deshaun and I forgot what the hell we even talked about the earlier matchup. Oh, Mac Jones and Gardner Minshew. Talking about being a pinch this week. Don't forget, no Jalen Hurts, no Pat Mahomes, no Tua, and no Matt Stafford. So people might be in a pinch this week. So be looking for some of these quarterbacks. And speaking of, Jordan Love might actually be a decent spot play for you this week. But what do you think, my friend? Give me some guys you like and don't like.
You want to talk about parallels? They play in the same region and the same divisional region, right? The North. They're on opposing conferences. Their quarterbacks have major question marks. Their running backs look older than shit. The guys underneath them look better at running back position. The receivers are either a rookie or a veteran that doesn't really seem like a veteran. No, actually, I can't put that on Christian Watson and Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson looks like a vet. But I'm just saying, there are so many parallels to these two teams. And it's kind of funny that they're coming together here because I think this game is going to be it's either going to be a shit show and it's going to be a field goal fest, or we're going to be surprised and Kenny Pickett and Jordan Love are going to set the world on fire. Because both these defenses, very vulnerable, and both these offenses have weapons, but it all depends on who the quarterback is that day, right? Jordan Love looked really good early on. He looked good last week against the Rams, albeit it was the Rams. They didn't really have an offense to compete, and they were on defense most of the time. And the Steelers, same thing. Steelers can look phenomenal when they get the run game going. The problem is that they really haven't gotten it going too much this year. I mean, most of their yardage from the running backs actually come from the receiving side because Jaylen Warren is so good. So I look at this game as I want a number of guys. I don't want either of the quarterbacks because I just can't trust either of the quarterbacks. I'll take Aaron Jones because he's officially off the injury report, which means it's a good thing. He's logged to practice. He's good to go. I'll take Jaylen Warren as my pinch flex start because he just always seems to come up with at least 50-plus yards and 5 catches. Love that out of him. I'll take Deontay Johnson for the volume play, and I'll take who's that other guy?
George Pickens.
No, not George Pickens. I was thinking about Packers. Oh, not Watson. Watson.
Romeo Doubs.
Romeo Doubs. Yeah, I'll take Romeo Doubs because he's going to be the volume play over there too. I don't think this is going to be a big play thing. I think Jair Alexander is going to have a George Pickens on lockdown. One thing George Pickens still does not do very well is separate from his corner. He just goes up for contested catches. I don't like that against a really good man corner like Jair Alexander. And I want no part of the tight ends. I don't care if Freiermuth is back. I don't care if Luke Musgrave caught a touchdown last week. No, that is too deep of a dive for me.
Both of them not only inconsistent, but both these guys good against defending the tight end. So I actually think George Pickens might get a little right in this one, only because, as you alluded to, he's only predicated really his days are predicated getting that deep ball. And, he was kind of shut down last week, and he's one of those guys that we talked about like Tennessee, for an example, when we talk about how like they're one of those teams that just all of a sudden out of nowhere, they have a good game. For some reason, something was kind of, as I was looking at this game, I was like, something's telling me George Pickens might have a decent day, but what the hell do I know?
Plug of the week right here. Cooper had Tank Dell last week. He's been on to something. When he's putting his stamp on somebody, you might want to just take it to the fucking cashier and write that check. It's doing some good stuff right now. I just wanted to shout you out because you did have that Tank Dell prediction last week.
Thank you. I forgot all about it, actually. Too many edibles. All right, let's go. 49ers at the Jaguars. This is a really good matchup, Justin. I mean, you got to be excited for this. I mean, this is a good test for your team. 49ers against QBs are 6th, running backs 9th, receivers 27th. Oof. Tight ends are 2nd in the league. That's such an anomaly, though. How could you be 6th against QBs and 27th against receivers? I don't even understand. Jaguars 21st against QBs. They're 2nd against running backs, 23rd against receivers, and 23rd against tight ends. What say you on this one? Give me some guys you like and don't like.
Man, it's going to be tough. I think that they're going to really try and get Debo involved in this game. I think this is going to be a huge Debo game. That doesn't necessarily say that Ayuk's going to have a bad game. I just, and here's the thing. Ayuk's had his best games this year with Debo in the lineup. So doesn't take away anything from it. Christian McCaffrey, obvious start. George Kittle with the short week, obvious start. Or with the bye weeks, obvious start. And then, I'm going to go with Brock Purdy is going to have a game. I think that they're going to go out there. They're going to put him in great situations. And this team is just going to go out there and let him ball and do what he does best. And that's timing throws. They're going to have all their weapons back. It's going to be hopefully, and this is me being the hopeful fan here, I think it's hopefully going to be a beat down of the Jaguars. On the other side, I have to be realistic. The Jaguars are a really good team. Trevor Lawrence, though, has been an anomaly in on himself. I mean, he's been good, but it just doesn't seem like he's been great. Maybe that's because I'm looking at it through the fantasy lens, but it just doesn't seem like he's been putting up the numbers that we all drafted him for. Calvin Ridley. I hate to say it, but if there was ever a game for Calvin Ridley to show up and torture somebody, it would be this freaking game. And that's because he's shown up in like 2-3 games this entire season. Like literally, like he's shown up in 2 or 3 games this entire season. I don't think he's gotten off the bus in the other 6 or 4, whatever the hell, however many games Jacksonville's had. But I think this is going to be a Calvin Ridley game. I'm booking it in. Christian Kirk, I'm going with him to have his normal 6 to 7 catch game, whatever yards and a touchdown attached to it. Evan Ingram, I'm Xing him out this game. I don't think that the linebackers are not going to let him get by. And then Travis Etienne. 49ers have not been good against the run this year. I think he's going to have a good game as well. It's going to be a really, really tough game.
And I think there's your answer, by the way, when you had said, about Trevor Lawrence and all that. I mean, he actually has been playing great NFL QB-wise. Not great for fantasy because Travis Etienne has been putting it in the end zone so much. What a great year for him. But I'll be honest with you. I was a little conflicted because, I had really watching the 49ers earlier this year. Everyone was like, and I was even looking at Purdy like he was just untouchable. But a lot of chinks in that armor over the last couple weeks. So, and Josh Allen on the defensive side for the Jaguars has been pretty decent this year. So I don't know. This is going to be an interesting game. But I definitely like the you obviously you're going to go with the running backs on both sides, but what I wanted to get around to was I really agree with you on the Calvin Ridley thing. I in fact have him in my ultimate DFS lineup this week because he comes in at such a good value also. And like you said, it's the up and down, helter skelter, almost that George Pickens feel. As I mentioned earlier, it's like at some point he's due. 49ers struggled against receivers. Kind of feel like this is that right game for Calvin Ridley too. So I'm totally with you on that one as well. Well, I got a great surprise for everyone. Unfortunately, some of our fantasy friends, they've been doing like bye weeks. So unfortunately, we have no Chuck Bass tonight. Had to take his bye week this week. But guess who's back? Back again. The judge is back. And we got Fantasy Court tonight on deck for Travis Kelce. See you in a bit. And yes, I already know YouTube. I'm going to get dinged all day for this, but you know what? It was worth it. Here we go.
What you are about to witness is real.
This court is now in session.
You may be seated. Welcome back to the Fantasy Court. It's been a few weeks, and I know that you guys have been missing your judge, but I am back, baby, and I am ready to lay down the law. And while you guys may have missed me, one person who hasn't been missing me is the guy I'm calling to the stand today, one Travis Kelce, tight end extraordinaire of the Kansas City Chiefs. Mr. Kelce, we are bringing you before the stand today and charging you with gross negligence stemming from your absolute no-show this past weekend. Mr. Kelsey, we realize you're a busy man with your newfound fame of being Taylor Swift's next breakup album, as well as having your own big brother, Jason Kelsey, named as the sexiest man alive over yourself. We know that was a blow to your ego, but we still need you to perform. This past weekend, Mr. Kelsey, you failed to score 5 fantasy points. This hasn't happened since all the way back in 2018 when Taylor Swift's newest album was the Reputation album. And I gotta tell you, speaking of reputations, you're slowly but surely ruining yours, sir.
I knew you were trouble when you walked in.
While most tight ends can get by with 5 fantasy points a week, most tight ends don't have first-round draft capital invested in them, and you are letting your fantasy managers down with this shit show of a performance. Mr. Kelsey, you will have a bye week this week to get your act together, and this court is hopeful that this slap on the wrist will be a lesson to you. We are putting you on monitored probation for the rest of the season and hope that you and your lover can turn it around. This court is adjourned.
I am the law.
What are you, gay?
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back, Judge. We appreciate you. And yes, welcome copyright laws. We don't appreciate you. All right.
It's okay. It's only one video. We won't be monetized. While we're at it, fuck you, YouTube. Fuck
you. Deuces, motherfuckers. All right, let's go. Saints at Vikings against the fantasy QBs. The Saints, they're 13th against quarterbacks, 8th against running backs, 11th versus receivers, and 16th versus tight ends. Vikings, 22nd against QBs, 2nd against seventh against running backs, 24th against receivers, and 17th against tight ends. This one's going to be interesting with Dobbs there, just to see how the Saints adjust to how well he did last week. But what do you think? What are some guys you like and don't like in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm big on Derek Carr again this week. I think that Derek Carr is your bread and butter as far as get a quarterback position. He has just been Mr. Consistency. Nobody really thought of him that way, but I'll tell you what, man, you look at all of his stats, he's just laying it down, the consistent 20 to 25 points a week in one of those heavy leagues. He's been good. I like this week Olave, Mr. Olave. I think that they're starting to really work him back into this lineup. They're really starting to hopefully get that connection going. They had it last week. So hopefully him and Carr stay on the same page. Another one, I like Juwan Johnson this week. I think that this is another guy I was expecting to go completely off when I heard Derek Carr was going to be in New Orleans, because I was just like, this is a big play tight end who likes to play deep receiver. Like, that was what Juwan Johnson was good at last year. So I think that this is another good week to start Juwan Johnson if you got him, possibly in relief of Travis Kelce or Dallas Goedert. And then Minnesota. Let's go over to the Minnesota side. Joshua Dobbs, the big question. Man, I really want to say start him, but this New Orleans defense has kind of been nasty. So, the big easy ain't so easy against quarterbacks. I think that you're going to kind of run into a brick wall here if you put Joshua Dobbs in. But who knows? He's done it before. He's done it in short spurts before. So I could be eating crow next week. I'm going to start Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson. Oh, and then I didn't say on the other side, Kamara is an obvious one. Start Kamara for sure. One last guy I want to put out there, Rashid Shaheed, baby. Always giving this guy a chance. As long as he gets one shot, he can take it 90 yards for a touchdown and show out. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the Wonder Kid. Why did I forget the Wonder Kid? Haysom Hill.
Mm.
That's always worth a start. I mean, we were talking about on the waiver show. He's really just starting to show consistency. That best ball pick's looking pretty good, Coop.
Every week, popping up in my lineup all of a sudden. Yeah. So I agree. I like I don't like the Viking side, if I'm being honest. I think that Saints D a little rough and tough, to be honest with you. So they're going to struggle. I think this Vikings offense. I think last week it was a little bit of not preparing for Dobbs. All of a sudden, here's this QB in, and he got hot and got on a roll, and that's what I kind of think will happen. I think the Saints D bounce back this week from that, though. So we shall see. All right, well, let's move on. Texans at the Bengals. Texans against fantasy QBs are 15th, against running backs 23rd. Receivers, they are 3rd, and tight ends, they are 8th. The Bengals 19th against fantasy QBs, 16th versus running backs, 15th versus receivers, and 29th versus tight ends. This is a really interesting damn game right here for sure. What do you think? Guys you like and don't like?
So originally I was just going to say Stroud, but now that we know Nico Collins is out and on the other side T. Higgins is out, it almost evens up the playing field. And it's crazy. I have this issue in a 1 QB league right now. Who do I play, Stroud or Burrow? So that's going to be a question I have for you, Coop. Who do you play in this one? Because if you have either one of them, most of the time you're going to play either one. But when you have both of them, you got a real dilemma.
I can't even believe I'm going to say this, but I would go Stroud, honestly. And the only reason why is you got this T. Higgins issue popping up. So you don't have, and then you have Jamar Chase, who's there and healthy because he's playing, but obviously having some issues with the chest, whatever it was, but it was something that he was having some soreness later on. So, you're having a beat up receiving core going into this matchup versus the Texans, who are coming off a great win last week. I'm going to say CJ Stroud, and plus he adds the added element of rushing, the rushing part of it as well, as you definitely won't get with Burrow. So I would go Stroud that one, believe it or not. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Wow.
Well, you know what? I'm so 50-50 right now that I would totally just plug that in, because you've been saying all the right things so far. I would say this, though. Joe Burrow has looked better rushing ever since the whole calving. I mean, he tore up my 49ers. I can't deny that. He absolutely shredded that defense up. I think he ran for like 44 yards on like 3 carries. So that was a pretty nice day. And then here's my thing. I'm not going to start Devin Singletary because I've never seen Devin Singletary really ever put out production that I want to start him with. Like there's never been a day where I'm like, yay, Devin Singletary. On the other side, definitely going to put out Joe Mixon. This has been a terrible team against the rush. Pretty good against the pass, though. So I will say that. I will say Jamar Chase, I think was it a chest or was it a back issue? Whatever it is, he's got some sort of issue.
Back. You're right. Sorry. I think I confused. I don't know who had the chest. Somebody had the chest in this one.
It was Christian Watson had the chest.
Okay, you're right. My bad. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It was the back thing for him.
But either way, I mean, you're going to play Jamar Chase because he's way too good to not play. But there might be, and you never know. He could literally put the team on his broken back and win the game and then just be injured next week. So whatever happens, happens. Anyways, you never take out Jamar Chase is the lesson of the day. This might be a big Tyler Boyd game. We might see a lot of Tyler Boyd. Another quick little entry into that one, because I know he's everywhere. Trenton Irwin has been somebody that the team has leaned on a lot when T. Higgins is out. On the flip side, Tank Dell start him. Robert Woods, if he's in the game, I'd go ahead and start him. Targets for Nico Collins has to go somewhere. It's either going to be him or Dalton Schultz. Somehow I trust him just a little bit more than Dalton Schultz at this point. Dalton's good. I don't know. I mean, I've never gotten fully into the appeal of Dalton Schultz. I always think he's just mid. He's like Jason Witten, but a little less Jason Witten. Like there's not as much magic to him. Like when you saw Jason Witten on the field, you knew he was just an average guy who ran average routes at an average speed. But there was just something about it when he got the ball, you were just like, man, that guy is really gonna freaking score on this one, or man, he really got some chunk yardage. I don't think Dalton Schultz got that, but like I said, I could be eating crow next week.
You might think you might be on that point, only because the only reason I say that is we talked about it, I think, with last week with Buffalo and Kincaid and how this and then I think the week prior, Kittle, and then the week prior. So you go down the list, the Bengals been giving up. They've been dropping them drawers for the tight end position. So, somebody who might matchup wise be able to just get right here against this Bengal offense, and vice versa. Watch for an Irv Smith Jr. sighting on the Bengal side. This Texans defense not very good against tight ends. Neither are very good against receivers, though. So going to be interesting to see. All right, let's go on to the wow, I didn't even know you were gone. I just happened to pop it. I was like, oh my God, he's not here. Titans at the Bucks. Against fantasy QBs, the Titans are 8th, against running backs 17th, receivers 21st, tight ends are 5th. Bucks 29th against fantasy QBs, 4th against running backs, 31st against receivers, 15th versus tight ends. Guys you like and don't like.
Yeah, so the cat needed to get out. I didn't want him to scratch up the carpet. I can hear him digging his nails there. I'm just like, sorry, son of a gun. I'm going to go with, and people, please call me crazy if you think I'm crazy. I'm going to go with Will Levis in this game. I think Will Levis got a big game coming. We were talking about it, how there's kind of like a little bit of a drop off from that big mega game. I understand that 1,000%. This guy did throw more yards than he did in this first game, though. I think he's here to stay, and I think he's making this Titans offense more relevant than it's been in, dare I say, years, because now they actually have somebody who can throw the ball more than 20 yards downfield. Sorry, rest in peace, Ryan Tannehill. It was a great run. We loved your QB 12 season, but bye-bye. On that point, Derrick Henry, start him. DeAndre Hopkins, somebody's got to get that ball. Start him. It's not going to be Treylon Burks for sure. Chiggy Okonkwo, keep him on the bench. He's proven nothing. That was a terrible pick by me. I'm so sorry. I regret it. On the other side, it's your stable three. It's Evans, it's Godwin, it's dare I say Baker. But you got to remember the Titans are much better against the run than they are against the pass, and Baker has been doing all right this year. He really hasn't given me the whole he's toasted for good vibes that I thought he was going to give. I don't know if you can agree on that one, but he's
1,000%.
Right. Like everybody thought going into the season, all right, this is Baker's Swain song. He's going out after this one. It's done. He might earn another contract. And as a starter, I'm not even saying as a backup. As a starter, he might earn another contract.
We counted him out over in LA. I mean, and he proved us wrong then too, if we don't remember. He had some great games in LA, comes over to the Bucks. I mean, I seriously was when I watched that Texan game was just wow. Was really surprised that he was able to answer after CJ Stroud drove it. He answered him, and it was not his fault. They lost that football game. It was definitely the defense letting that go. So to that point, I totally agree with you. I love Will Levis. Not to keep giving away my ultimate DFS lineup, but he is there, and he is a ultimate value this week. It's not a lot of money to pay for Will Levis, and a great matchup. So I agree. Now, we talked a minute ago about the people. Listen, Jalen Hurts, no Patrick Mahomes, no Tua. Talked about those guys. Baker Mayfield, if he's there and you're looking for somebody or there's a bunch of guys there, I think he gives you the best floor. He gives you that best. You're getting at least 16, 18 points from Baker. It's happening. You're good in that realm. I mean, some of these other guys, you could go from above that or you could go below that. So there's those two options really. But Baker, I think out of all of those guys, gives you the safest floor anyway. But we shall see, because the Titans, again, they're not that great of a secondary either. It could be a little sneaky back and forth air it out game. We shall see. Lions at the Chargers. Lions against fantasy QBs are 20th, running backs 3rd, receiver 14th, tight end 27th. Chargers 30th against fantasy QBs, 19th against running backs, 29th against receivers, and 21st against tight ends. All right, guys you like and don't like in this one.
I still got the visual of Justin Herbert struggling in that game against the Jets, and I'm like, oh man. I think he pulls something together this week. I'll give the Jets a lot of credit. Their secondary is extremely talented. Their defense against the rush definitely leaves a lot to be desired. But that's not the game we're talking about. We're talking about the Chargers. We're talking about the Lions. It's Austin Eckler to the moon 1,000%, as Commissioner Cooper will tell you. It's Austin Eckler to the motherfucking moon. We keep him in good graces. Austin, come on our show sometime. And then it's hard to pick against Keenan Allen, but you look at the past couple of weeks and you realize when Keenan Allen is the lone receiver on the field, it's tough because when he's getting double and triple covered because they don't respect the other receiver, it's just not there. And Justin Herbert, same way. It's kind of hard to pick with this guy because Josh Palmer was the only other receiver that was respected on that team, and he's on the IR. Mike Williams sure as hell ain't coming back this year. And so it's kind of like Quentin Johnston's got to either step up or he's got to step aside because this team needs to figure out how to get some attention off of Keenan Allen so he can get back to putting up 20-plus points a game. And that'll also help with everybody who has Justin Herbert shares, this guy right here. But let's talk about the Lions side. I like Goff. I like Gibbs. I think Montgomery can score a touchdown on his first game back. Dan Campbell seems to really like Montgomery. He's got quite a dilemma there with Gibbs and Montgomery. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. This is just a team where you always start your starters. You always start those guys, and every once in a while you can throw in like a Josh Reynolds and a flex. I don't think it's going to be necessary this week. I think your main guys are going to get the majority of your points. I don't think you're going to need a Josh Reynolds or a Donovan Peoples-Jones or a Jameson Williams. I think you should just stick with your studs. I think you should just put in the Sun God and Laporta and Gibbs and Montgomery and Goff.
All right, so this one's going to be an interesting matchup regardless. I just want to see this game. Forget the fantasy for a moment. I just like to see how this game plays out. Chargers really need this game, and the Lions have just, quite frankly, been a good football team all year long. From day one when they went into Arrowhead, upset the reigning champions. So, I think the Lions are battle-tested. It's going to be, like I said, very interesting to see, and I think the Chargers are starting to get on that roll towards the end that they should be on anyway. So, and by the way, Chris from that effing show, Mr. Dingus, he said Chargers defense has not allowed a 50-yard rusher since week 4. We appreciate that tidbit. That's very interesting to say the least. All right, let's get on to the Battle of the Birds right quick. The Falcons at the Cardinals. The Falcons against fantasy QBs are 28th. Against running backs are 6th. Against receivers are 12th. Against tight ends, they're 19th. Cardinals, on the other side, the return of Kyler Murray. Defensively, they're 24th against QBs, 30th against running backs, 25th against receivers, and 6th against tight ends. And hopefully return James Conner for this offense as well. What do you say, though, guys? You like and don't like in this one?
So I think this is gonna be one of the games where you're not gonna like watching the game, but it's gonna low key score you a lot of points in fantasy. I'm all in for the return of Kyler Murray being a big return week for him. I mean, we've seen this offense work, and the pieces are slowly coming together. Trey McBride's had a breakout week. Marquise Brown has had a hell of a season considering he's had a rotating door of quarterbacks. Connor was on a roll before he went down. This is a team that shows a lot of potential. One guy that I think if he plays this week might go off and might be a very sneaky flex / DFS play, Michael Wilson. I've been thinking this guy he's been battle tested. He's gotten a lot of good deep ball passes, and he's been one of those guys he shows up on the stat sheet every single week, and you're just waiting for him to get a good quarterback so he can really get the consistent, accurate deep balls to actually work with, rather than getting it from Clayton Tune or no offense, Josh Dobbs. So I think this is going to be a big week for him if he steps on the field. He's currently got a questionable tag. That's why I say that. On the other side, Dirty Birds, Taylor Heineke, very solid type of player. I can see him still putting out a solid 15 to 20 points. I think this is a huge Bijan week. If there's ever a huge Bijan week, it's this week. Come on, Bijan. Let's go, buddy. We need to score these points. Drake London steps back on the field. I think him and Heineke are going to develop a strong connection. I think that might come at the expense of Kyle Pitts, but maybe he makes it all work. I don't know if I had to pick between London and Pitts right now. I pick London. And then as far as Jonnu Smith goes, I'm just going to start him until he proves me wrong. What do we have to prove here? If we sit him and he goes for 15 points, you're going to see all the consistency. You're going to be hitting yourself in the head and be like, no, dummy, you should have started him the entire time. So just start him until he makes you sit him. That's my theory on Jonnu Smith.
Not as good, I guess, as a comparison. He's not as good as what this guy was for Atlanta when he was hot. But it reminds me of when Cordarrelle Patterson came out and people are like, oh yeah, well that can't be,
That's a great comparison.
Same with Jonnu. It's like every week, and it's the same exact thing. Or I'm like, I was thinking the same thing, like, oh yeah, no, that would mean that. And then all of a sudden the next week it's like, oh, here he is again. Like there he's popping up. Somebody who really likes him, of course, is the Judge. He's out every damn ultimate DFS for the Judge. Every week he's got Jonnu Smith, and he is a great value as well. So yeah, like it. Chris is filling us in with some great stats here as well. He says Henry in week 8 is the only running back over 100 yards allowed by Atlanta. He had 101. So there you go with that stat as well. All right, well, let's take a quick little break. I know we're a little bit behind. We'll catch up here in a second. But while we do that, let's just get a second while we stretch and flex our way into this lineup. Bandy's bringing his flex starts of the week.
Welcome back to Bandy's Flex Starts of the Week. What's happening, my people? Hey, welcome back yet again to Bandy's Flex Starts of the Week. Let's jump right in, baby. Look, the Houston Texans are actually must-see TV these days. CJ Stroud doing his thing. So that's going to bring me to the first guy on my list, and it is Tank Dell. One of the top scoring wide receivers on the week of week 9. Look, Tank Dell is getting the work. He's running smooth routes. Throw Tank Dell in your flex spot this week. Moving on to the next guy on my list. He's made an appearance on Bandy's Flex Starts of the Week before, That guy is Rashid Shaheed. I love saying that guy's name, Rashid Shaheed. I just had to say it one more time. Over on the Saints, Michael Thomas isn't doing his thing like we thought he would. Rashid Shaheed stepping in, tearing it up, running them routes, doing his thing, throw him in the flex spot with some of those elite teams on a bye this week. Moving on to the last guy on my list, another guy whose name is pretty fun to say is Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, mainly this is probably for those deeper leagues because your boy Juju hasn't done much this year. But with Kendrick Bourne going out, Juju is doing a little bit, enough, especially with these bye weeks. And like I said, the deeper leagues, throw Juju Smith-Schuster in your flex spot this week. Guys, for more fantasy football advice, all kinds of giveaways and fun stuff, check out your boys Bandy and Trey on the 4th and Flex Fantasy Football Podcast. Let's go. Woo.
Thank you. I've been working out.
I liked in that one how Bandy, I said Juju, and I think he realized, like, as he said it, like, well, he hasn't done much lately. So in those deeper leagues, that was good. I was just cracking up when I was listening to that one. All right, let's go Giants at the Cowboys. Giants against fantasy QBs are 10th against running backs 27th, receivers 22nd, and tight ends 7th. Cowboys 12th against fantasy QBs, 13th against running backs, 5th against receivers, and 22nd against tight ends. What say you guys? Do you like and don't like?
Tony Pollard, Cowboys defense. That's it. That's who I like. I don't think Dak's going to get enough times to pass the ball. I think it's going to be really cut and dry like the first game. I think Cowboys defense is going to force a lot of turnovers, get a lot of sacks, and Tony Pollard, they're going to just feed him into the end zone to try and get him going. That's my analysis of this game.
I think if Dayball's smart, he's going to keep the ball on the ground to Saquon, so you might see an okay game from Saquon in this one. But, you know, that's it, Brian Daboll.
So he's going to go 3 and outs. 3 and outs. Just 3 and outs. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you know, whatever.
Hey, Tommy DeVito didn't throw an interception, but he only threw it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's better than a pick to the house. So that's all. I think they'll take a 3 and out all day. The Commanders at the Seahawks is the next one. This is an interesting one for sure. We got the Commanders against fantasy QBs are 31st, against running backs 15th, against receivers 30th, and tight ends 25th. Seahawks 17th against QBs, 24th against running backs, 20th against receivers, and 12th against tight ends. Give me guys you like and don't like.
I smell fireworks on this one, Jason. I smell a good game for Sam Howell. I don't know if it's going to be a good game for Gino because every time I think he's got the matchup, he still finds a way to be in that mediocre 15 to 20. But I do like Kenneth Walker in this one. Zach Charbonnet, I think, is a good flex start for this one. And then for the receivers, man, it's been so mediocre in Seattle. I'm just not used to it. If I had to choose one, I think I'm going to go with DK. I think because really what it is Washington's best corner is like 5'7". His name is Emmanuel Forbes. He's their first round pick. And he's literally one of the smallest guys coming out of the draft class of any position. I think kickers included. So that's one of the matchups I'm looking at straight up, and I'm thinking, okay, DK can dominate this guy. Not only is he smaller, he's a rookie as well. On the other side, like I said, I love me some Sam Howell, Brian Robinson. Give me some of that all day long. And Jahan Dotson, I think that they're starting to cook with some fire over there with Jahan Dotson, getting him going. He is such a big play threat, and I think they're going to need that with this defense.
If you are an owner, I know you got a little scared this week. He did miss practice. However, it was for a personal reason, and he is going to be A-okay, no injury for Mr. Dotson. Chris from that effing show, don't forget, live on Tuesdays here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation at 9:30. He wanted to remind us how fantasy QB number 6 on the season. He's been top 10 4 out of the last 5 games. Seattle's defense has not allowed above 14 points to a rusher since week 1. Chris, thank you so much for those.
It's really been the Ryan Fitzpatrick this year.
Yeah. Oh, for real. Yeah. Very surprising. Once we at the end of the year, when we start to look at ADP from this season and where they ended up, that's going to be real interesting. He's going to be one of those. Wow. Hello. What the hell were we thinking on this one? So here we go. Jets at the Raiders. The stinky, I tried to tell y'all they were exposed. They're going to get exposed again every damn time because they suck. QBs for the Jets are their 7th against running backs. They're 21st. Receivers still number 1, and it's tight ends are 26th. The Raiders, they're 14th against fantasy QBs, 29th against running backs, 6th against receivers, and 13th versus tight ends. Give me guys you like and don't like in this one.
Well, I'm going to tell you the true analysis on Sunday, but this is probably the most Raider game I have ever. I'm not ever seen, but it's a Raider game for sure. In the sense that if the Raiders lose this game, I'm not surprised. And they shouldn't lose this game. They shouldn't lose this game at all, but I would not be surprised if they do. I'm not doing any of the quarterbacks. Aiden O'Connell, Zach Wilson, not for me. I'm just not that guy. Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, 100%. Start him up. Both defenses are very weak against the rush. I would go with both defenses as well because I think they're going to rattle these rookie Zach Wilson's not a rookie, but he plays like one. Younger quarterbacks. On the offensive side, really, it's really a difficult dilemma here. Garrett Wilson, you paid so much for the guy, but he has really let you down all season long. When do you kind of just pull the plug and say, hey, if it's not working, I'm 4-5, 5-4. I really need to make a playoff push. Do I put him in? I say no. I don't think you want to put him in this week. The Raiders have been surprisingly good against receivers. They've got a young man named Hobbs on the other side who's been absolutely phenomenal. Nate Hobbs has been great against receiver number 1s. On the other side, same thing. Devontae Adams, and this is really a question I'm going to pose to you, Coop. I know we're short on time, but of these 2 wide receiver 1s that have been problematic this year, who would you choose if you had to keep one in your lineup? If you had drafted both these guys and you're like, I can't deal with this lack of production anymore, I got to take one of them out, who would you take?
I would take out Wilson, but that
is that the bias coming through? Is that the bias
so much? I mean, why the hell? I would never have a Jet in my damn. No, I'm just kidding. But I just feel like there's no. I just feel like even with Aiden, I just don't know with Aiden O'Connell, so it's like maybe he'll surprise me, and because I've heard a lot of good things. I mean, a lot of people were clamoring for him to start. But Zach Wilson, I mean, I've seen all I need to see from Zach Wilson, bro. And it's not good. He's not good at all. I joked in me and Fred's fantasy league, or if maybe it was our thread, whatever it was. I remember watching whatever game it was Monday night. They were playing. I seriously looked like Pop Warner. I mean, literally what that offense looks like. So that to me, I feel like there's just more support, I guess, on the Raider side. I feel like his number 2 on his side is a little bit better as well. So Jacoby Myers makes Devonta Adams a little bit better in that respect, where you don't see Garrett Wilson having that other guy to give him any kind of relief or respect, I guess, on that side. So that's just be my thing, and probably is a little long-winded, but yeah, I would take out Garrett Wilson on that one.
No, I like that. I like that answer a lot.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll shut the fuck up now. Let's Hal is super surprising, Chris. No, I totally agree with you 100%. All right, let's get on to the Broncos at the Bills. When I kept now, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm showing my age here, but I don't know if you ever watched the movie Bronco Billy with Clint Eastwood. But all I could hear was that sheriff in that one part going, Bronco Billy. Every time I kept writing this game up. I don't know why I felt the need to share that either. All right, the Broncos are 26th against quarterbacks. They are dead last against running backs, 15th against receivers, and 31st against tight ends. The Bills, they're 4th against QBs, 18th versus running backs, 13th versus receivers, and 14th versus tight ends. By the way, Bronco Billy and Clint Eastwood, that was that whole crew. He had like an Adam Sandler crew back in the day where any which way but loose. Trying to think of some other movies that there's some good times. Clint Eastwood, I appreciate you. All right, Justin, what's up, man? Give me some guys you like and don't like in that one.
I'll have to watch that one for sure.
I don't know if it aged well, but it was fun when I was a kid.
I mean, if Blazing Saddles is still a good movie, I mean, Bronco Billy might still be going there. It had Clint Eastwood in it at least, right? There's something to look forward to. Man, for this game, you just want to go plug every bill in. I'm going to say this. I don't know I've been looking for the status of Leonard Fournette the entire week. If he plays, I'm low key thinking about playing him. Even if it's a DFS on the week, on like that one game, I would consider it. Have you seen this run game? I'm going to give you a quick diagnosis of what's gone down in this run game. Red zone wise, this team for the running backs has 30 red zone carries. You know how many touchdowns they have from those running backs? 3.
James Cook is none of them.
He's one, actually.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But to be honest with you, it pretty much feels like none. If you've been having James Cook on your roster, it feels like none. And not a lot of people want to admit this, but this roster move was to get rid of James Cook and say, hey, bud, you just can't handle the hard work on the inside. We need a big guy.
So, okay, hold on a second. I just want to comment on that real quick, though, because I feel like when I watch the Bills, I just feel like they're not consistent with it. I'm a James Cook owner, and that's why when I'm watching, I'm like, they do grind with him at certain point, and then they go away from it. And it's like because they want Josh Allen to throw all these amazing little throws to Diggs and do all this other shit instead of just staying consistent with the run game. And then every time they get in the red zone, here comes Latavius Murray. Here comes this guy. I'm just not sold on Leonard Fournette. I mean, what the fuck's he been doing? Like, if he's so great, why hasn't he been on some other roster and been scoring touchdowns for a team that needs a running back right now? I'm just not into the Fournette thing. But all right, my bad. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I mean, you said everything that everybody else has said, and even I was thinking it. And then I really dived into the fucking stuff, the stats, and I was just like, wow, like they've been that inefficient when they've given it to the running backs. So my thought is they want to take a little bit of pressure off of Josh Allen because hopefully they're figuring out, hey, we shouldn't beat up our quarterback before the playoffs because we're going to kind of need him. So maybe they want to get a running back in there. And I mean, it's not going to take away from James Cook his rotation on the 20 to 20. It's just going to take away from the rotation at the 20 to the end zone.
Right.
Where it's money. So
really piss the owners off at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So I would just low key monitor that because I think that he might make an appearance this weekend. And then, you play the regulars. I think this could be an excellent chance to play Gabe Davis and have a good week with Gabe Davis. I am automatic with Dalton Kincaid now. He has found his way into my flex spots, which is phenomenal. I love it. I love a consistent guy at the flex position. And then on the other side, man, it is freaking hard to predict when Russell Wilson's going to have a game. It really is. I'm going to go with him actually doing that. I'm going to go Javonte Williams because you've brought up many times that the Bills' Achilles heel has been the run game. I think that that's a perfect, time for Javonte to start seeing an uptick in carries. Cortland Sutton is the wide receiver that I want to roll with. It's only because he's been getting the touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, you can get me 3 catches for 60 yards. Doesn't mean anything if you don't add a touchdown on there. It's just another kind of shitty flex performance for me. But at least with Cortland Sutton, he can get 17 points. Oh, and now we're down 1. But outside of that, I'm not going to roll with Mims. I'm not going to roll with any Broncos tight ends. It's just one of those games where you just know what's going to happen. You just got the feeling that you know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be maybe one drive, and then the Bills are going to completely take over.
I think that you might see, now this is going back to that game script thing, where you might see a good fantasy day for your Russell Wilsons, for your Jerry Judys, because this is going to be, obviously I think the Bills are going to, score and score quickly, and they're going to want to, they're great, of course, when it's Monday night too. I always feel like they're great for prime time. So I could foresee, I should say, Russell Wilson and this Broncos offense, not because of how good they are, but because of just necessity, having to throw and throw often, and which will equate into at least a decent fantasy outing. Again, if you're missing a Jalen Hurts or a Pat Mahomes, maybe you can go to the guy who's got Russell Wilson and be like, yo, bro, like, here's some shit for him or something like that. Possibly get a decent play. And by the way, I'm glad you brought up Dalton Kincaid, because I asked you off air last week. I had a dilemma this week going into this week where I have Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid. And I don't know if I'd ever put Kincaid. It's not a PPR league, so I don't know if I'd put him in my flex. I have James Cook there, actually. We're having that conversation. But I talked about that. I was going to shop him around to see about a QB this week because I have Jalen Hurts, and the trade came up of Kincaid for Geno Smith, who's got a decent matchup this week. But again, it's a 1 week rental, so, we talked about it. You said, no, I wouldn't do that. And so I didn't end up doing it. And I'll be GD that I go look today. And if this guy didn't drop Geno Smith, you motherfucker. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't now, though, so I have to wake up at 4 a.m. on Sunday to see if I can snag him right quick. Because right now I got Heineke in there, which, he's got an okay, like you said, I think he's got an okay, day with the matchup. But I think Geno Smith, I think you mentioned it with Metcalf, I think is a good mismatch there. Tyler Lockett's, I think this whole team's a go. It's a great matchup, but, I don't know. We'll see. That's the fantasy, way. It's I'll pick up Geno Smith late at night. He'll go for like 7 points, and Heineke will go for 30. And that's how it goes. All right. Well, speaking of fantasies, it's Friday night. It's time for some Netflix and chill. Let Nikki set us in the mood for some Friday night loves for this week.
What's up, everybody? It's Nikki from the Blonde Blitz, and here are my Week 10 fantasy starts. This week, I've got a crush on Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz has found the end zone in 4 of his last 5 games, and he's developed some really great chemistry with CJ Stroud. I expect him to have a really good day on Sunday, going up against a Bengals defense that has allowed the most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends.
Oh, do me! Derek, get up, will you? You look like the poster boy for birth control.
I've got a crush on Michael Pittman this week, who's finally made it into my starting lineup. He's had at least 8 targets in the last 4 games, and his volume is just way too good to pull away from now. He's getting a Patriots defense who has allowed the 5th most yards and 2nd most touchdowns to receivers since Week 5.
Mr. Mellon, your wife was just showing us her Klimt.
You too, huh? She's showing it to everybody.
Well, she's very proud of it.
I'm proud of mine too. I don't go waving around at parties, though.
But this week, my heart belongs in Cincinnati. We all know I love to ride a hot hand, and this week, I'm riding Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is red hot. Last week, he completed 31 of 44 passes for a season-high 348 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joe Burrow has been QB1 3 times out of the last 4 weeks, and I expect him to continue his hot streak against the Houston Texans.
Well, what's your favorite subject?
Poetry.
Really? Well, maybe you can help me straighten out my Longfellow.
That's it for Week 10, everybody. Good luck, and I will see you in Week 11.
What a woman.
Dad, she is the teacher.
You know, I like teachers. If you do something wrong, they make you do it over again.
Back to School. Rodney Dangerfield, classic. I actually was like trying to figure out what to do. I was going to do like an 80s montage. So I went to that one first because I remember the Rodney Dangerfield, him doing that. Like, thanks. I was like, oh, this will be funny. And then I was like, oh, man, look, I forgot about all these little classic scenes from this movie. So Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield, total classic. If you haven't seen it, make sure you watch it. By the way, also Bronco Billy, American classic. Go watch that movie. Gonna bring a tear to your eye. Very good movie. Make sure you check it out. All right. We appreciate you guys. We will see you on Sunday morning. And I hope in the comments section, you guys let me know how you rate Bronco Billy and Back to School. But I already know Back to School is going to get a 5 out of 5 all day long. All right, guys, we appreciate you. We'll see you on Sunday morning. Our fantasy friends will be back to get your roster set up. We are knee deep in the season. Got to pull these ones out. We appreciate you. Good luck. We'll see you on Sunday morning, and we are out.